What's up, guys? So let's talk about the total lunar eclipse that's happening Sunday, the 7th of September at 6:12 GMT. So basically, it is happening in the sign of Pisces. So the sun in Virgo, the moon in Pisces, and with the north node, that's what makes an eclipse an eclipse. North node is conjunct moon, south node is conjunct sun. So let's break this one down. There's a lot here. So first of all, what is the deal with eclipses, right? Why are they so significant? Eclipses are essentially a time where you have the path that you've been on, right? And I was just talking to my friend about this. And eclipses bring up it's like a full moon on steroids, right? And because the nodes are associated with it, there's a very big link to destiny, to karma, and basically to like kind of thinking of it like you can either continue on the path you're on or you can really diverge and switch up. So they're very, very intense moments, and a lot of times they also have very meaningful events and fated events that happen that kind of are life altering for a lot of people, right? So anyways, so I have here the chart. So that's how I have always seen eclipses. It's like, and in this one in particular, and I'm gonna break everything down so you guys don't you worry. But we've got 15, so 15 degrees. So first of all, you can look at your natal chart. You can pause the video. What house is 15 Pisces and 15 Virgo? Like, what axis is that for you? For me, I'm a eighth house is Pisces, so it's falling in my eighth house and second house, right? For example. And I'll talk about those two, kind of like house per house and whatnot of how it would affect you based on where it's falling. But really, it's important to understand the overall energy of this. So where did my chart go? So the first thing I see is that Mercury is conjunct the sun, and it's not right out. It's not combust, meaning that it's not getting burnt by the sun. It's not too close, but it's just right outside that zone of conjunction, but not combustion. So that's actually very strong Mercury in Virgo. And the fact that it's opposite the moon in Pisces, and that this axis is so prominent. Also, we have a 29 degree, the aneretic degree of Saturn, right? Huge deal. So with that said, and there's a 1 degree mini grand trine of Pluto and Aquarius at 1 degree, and they're all retrograde. So that's very symbolic too. I'll get into that. And then Neptune is at 1 degree retrograde Aries, Aquarius for Pluto, and then 1 degree retrograde Gemini for Uranus. So those are all trying each other. And you have Jupiter square Mars. Venus is by itself, not aspecting anything in Leo. So there's a lot going on, a lot to talk about. What does this mean for you, right? What does this mean for me? What does this mean for you? What does this mean for us? So first, I always talk about Pisces and Virgo axis, right? It's the opposite sign. To me, it's the most important axis in astrology because it represents the balance between logic and magic, logic and intuition, between what we're able to control in our day-to-day lives and what we have to leave up to spirit. If you're too far on one side of this, like on the Virgo side, you guys have seen me talk about this in many videos, so I'm sorry if I'm a broken record, but I always have new things to say about it. If you're too far on the Virgo side, you might worry too much. You might be too self-critical, and when you're self-critical, and don't worry, I'm gonna go more into this, but I want to kind of touch a little bit on everything first, so people who don't have like I don't know how long the video will be. Maybe it won't be that long, but I want to really kind of give a recap in the first 10 minutes or so, and then kind of expand on things. But basically, like what this axis is about is when you have that type of perfectionism, right? And you worry a lot, and it creates rigidity that keeps you away from really experiencing the wholeness of life, right? The beauty of life. Like every day we go through our lives and there's little things that come up. There's little conversations, there's worries, there's this thing, that thing. Our lives are so fragmented and compartmentalized. They have there's different areas of our life, right? That in each area has this concern and has that concern, has this thing that's not perfect, that thing that's not perfect. And it's really easy in this modern day for us to get fully absorbed in that. And one thing that happens with when we're too much on the Virgo side, and this all relates to the eclipse because the axis the eclipse is in is it's related to like how that's showing up in our lives, right? Is that when we're too far in that Virgo energy, we don't have enough time to remember like why we're here, or like the fact that like the great mystery of even being alive at the first place. We can get so deep in to this is wrong, that's wrong, blah blah blah, that we forget that I don't want to like say God as in like any religious connotation or whatever, but that spirit, the universe, right? That I say God, but like just the grand, whatever, the great mystery, whatever you want to call it, the creator, whatever. We can't even conceptualize why we're here. So Virgo is trying so hard because Virgo is about figuring everything out, and it's about observing everything physically. So Virgo gets very frustrated when it doesn't have control, right? Because it's so capable and so intelligent. But Pisces is the scientist. It's the axis of science. Also Gemini, Sag, but really Pisces does rule science, new inventions, and a lot of people think that Aquarius does, but it's actually Pisces. Because it's like imagining what's, like being able to imagine the unimaginable at a time. And there's so many questions that we have as humans that simply cannot be understood through the logical Virgo mind. And that's when the third eye, Neptune, the crown chakra of just experiencing oneness comes in. So with Pisces, sometimes we need to take a step back and spend time alone and contemplate and step away from the noisiness of our own mind, Mercury, Virgo, and walk into nature, or even just into our own dreams, or just take a step back and realize, like, I've done all I can in all these areas of life, right? But now I just need to leave. There's some things I just need to leave up to God. I always say this: how many times have you thought you were completely screwed? And I don't have my normal mate cup, so I have this. How many times in life did you think you were absolutely screwed? A situation had no hope, and you were okay in the end. So whatever you're going through right now, it's almost like seeing God. Like part of high Pisces is seeing God in everything, the good and the bad. I know that's very heavy for a lot of people to hear that. So when you add, in this eclipse, when you add Mercury being opposite the moon with the node, to me that adds that mental logical element to it. Like it asks us the question, what self-limiting beliefs am I having? What ways of communicating with others and myself and thinking / processing reality? Like, what validity does that have? And how do I hold myself back from more not just happiness, more of a deeper investigation, more potential for a deeper investigation and more open-mindedness to, I'm not saying that like I have all the answers. I'm saying to have that curiosity, to know that what's provable right now by science, right? Nothing against science. I love science, but I'm just saying that just because something is not provable currently in the seen by the scientific community as valid or true, that it doesn't exist, right? We can think about so many different times in history when, something was deemed as someone was deemed as a lunatic to think something that then 100 years is, seen as self-evident by everyone, right? So, so in a big part, that's the first thing I see is like, okay, how far are you on that balance? Now, on the other side of Pisces, it's like, well, what about you actually going towards your dreams? Like, what about you actually believing in God? Like it's one thing to say spiritual stuff, but what about actually trusting? Like a lot of people go out and say like, yeah, I trust the universe, and I, and they have this like, I'm not even talking shit. I'm just saying I've noticed it. But when shit really hits the fan, and I know this is more like just as much linked to trauma as anything else, but when shit really hits the fan, it's like, well, where's your belief now? Like why? Like for me, and I'm not saying this to be like I'm so good or anything like that, but when shit does hit the fan, I become closer. Like it's not the only time I pray, but I just have that faith, And I'm a human. I'm not gonna say like no situation can make me like not rattled, but generally it's like if this is it, this is it. That's pure like surrender. Like, but like the bringing them both together, Virgo and Pisces, is like doing all the day-to-day routine work, like putting yourself in the position, and it's like allowing yourself to dream and then doing the work to get there, right? So if let's say it's the visionary Pisces, right? Like you allow yourself to think like, maybe like there is something to I always use these. I need a different example. Maybe like like I'm really gifted at singing. Like I have an amazing voice. Like I write these lyrics. I'm shy though, but like, I'm very, very, very talented. Or, like I have these paintings I've been doing for years, right? But I don't know who would want to buy them. Like, and I've only done like 2 in the last 3 years. All my friends say they're incredible and they're as good as the ones in museums, but who am I? I just do them whenever, I just do them for fun. So that example, not that everything artistic has to be commercialized or turned into money, but like, if that person actually had the dream of being the artist, of having her art seen by millions of people, or just by not even by millions of people, just like really doing a lot more of it and actually loves it and would love for that to be her job, then the Virgo part would be going and finding in her routine, in her weekly routine, carving out this hour, that hour, everything she can, buying the right types of supplies, and connecting with the right people, understanding how the industry works, where she can go to network and to like, but really it's just about putting in the work. And too far Pisces is that laziness. It's that escapism. It's that giving up too easy on yourself. It's that, what, fuck it. Like I could never be as good. Like, yeah, I'm a great painter and stuff, but I could never be as good. I'm a great singer, but I could never be as good as, you name good singer, like as this like superstar, like Rihanna or something like that, right? Yeah, I love astrology, but like I see this astrologer, there's no way I could ever be as good as that astrologer. Like why even try? So bringing those two together is really about bringing form. It's about bringing higher ideas and open-mindedness to anything being possible that's past the material realm, which is very Saturnian, Neptune, and understanding that life itself is fucking crazy. The fact that we're all here, that past lives exist, and that there's been so many people that recall their past lives, and that can be proven based on documentation from the past lives they remember where they died and were blah, 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 blah. So many things like that, right? We've seen so many glitches in the matrix, as they call it. But we're all just here on this planet. Astrology shows these insane patterns that, cannot just be random, especially like existing within family structures. And, just like, how could I have a client that I've never ever met and do a recorded reading and tell her like for 2 hours everything about her that she's never even told anyone, or know more about her, explain her better than anyone in her life could even herself could explain herself, right? How is that possible? So there's so part of Pisces is seeing the magic in the world, and Virgo is being like, okay, well, what of the magic that I see and of myself, I've allowed myself to experience that. Like low Pisces is like, I need to escape it. I need to do drugs. I need to get drunk. I need to get high because the world is so such a hellhole that I need to feel, this other altered version of heaven, which, is like the escapism of Pisces. That's why it happens, because it's used to Neptune, the highest heavenly realm. Virgo is way more about health, routine, what you eat. Don't eat that, don't drink that. It's about the physical body. Virgos are very psychosomatic, especially Virgo moons. When something psychological happens, they get sick or they feel it in their body. It's very, very common. Virgo placements have that, right? Especially Virgo moon. So Pisces is the opposite. They're very outside of their body. A lot of Pisces just don't give a shit about their body because they're not humans. I'm a Pisces. Like, it's like, yeah, I'll trust God. We're so innately aware that we are not our body that sometimes we don't treat our body as well as we should. Whether that's, the Pisces fish drinking a ton of alcohol. I don't personally drink, but I used to drink a lot. And just excess in general, and food, whatever it is, just like that spiritual awareness of like, I might as well enjoy myself here, but it can go too far. While Virgo is more like, let's chill out. If you want to have your highest spiritual ideals met and reach your potential, your mind has to be good. Which comes from your routine, which comes from the things you do for yourself, which comes from the things you don't do, the order. That's why they love each other, these two. That's why it's the most important, because to create a masterpiece, you need order. And even when you're doing something like astrology, and I teach one-on-one, one of my philosophies is teaching Pisces and Virgo, right? All my students know. And if anyone's interested, I do one-on-one, all levels. I don't care if you have studied for 15, 20 years or 0 days and don't know anything. I'll teach you everything and make you the best incredible astrologer. But yeah. So what else did I write? I haven't looked at my notes yet. Yeah. So basically, with the North Node and Pisces of the Moon, we're trying to detach. We're trying to let go. We're trying to move towards more empathy, more compassion, more letting fate decide, but also doing our best effort and being less self-critical. That's the thing about Virgo, is that these two signs are probably two of the biggest self-sabotage signs. Probably the two biggest. Virgo, because they just screw themselves over because they think that they're here and other people are here when really they're here and other people are here, and they go, the whole 0 or 100 perfectionism thing. And then Pisces, just because a lot of times, like it's just Pisces just evade everything. And then when they have a good opportunity come up, they think it's too good to be true. And they go and do that thing where they self-sabotage and unconsciously screw the opportunity up because, it's more psychological than just the signs. There are other signs that, I think I've done a whole video or post on self-sabotage. I don't know if I've done a video, definitely an Instagram post. But the point is that these two signs do that in different ways. So when you have that self-esteem, that sense of purpose, which comes from a lot of places, but definitely Pisces is like that spiritual sense of purpose. And it's also about being able to let go and understand and surrender control. So this leads me to my next point. Well, first of all, we have a really nice Jupiter aspect of this eclipse, right? That's going to make it a lot more pleasurable than it normally would be. And it's in a trine with the moon. It's in Cancer, obviously, and it's sextile the sun. So that will definitely kind of give a wider perspective on how this is working. Now, from a karmic level of where we're at as a collective, this is highly important because of the outer planets, right? Because of what they're doing. You have this 1 degree. You have to understand the symbolism. Pluto 1 degree Aquarius, Neptune 1 degree, is in all Aries, and Uranus 1 degree Gemini, but they're all retrograde, right? So this represents like, yes, like we have been, and I just said this in my Instagram reel, it's 3 minutes long, my Instagram, I just seen this in Astro. I was like, the end of this year is like this summer, we've gotten a little bit of a taste of like what the next era of the world is going to be like, right? But now everything's retrograding back besides Pluto, but still, so this eclipse is kind of like, they're all retrograde, but they're also all at 1 degree of the degree of new beginnings. And so it's really like kind of, it gives this glimpse into 2 different timelines, right? This is almost like the separator between this little period of time we've had, this kind of like mostly this like northern hemisphere summer, right? And now mostly until like next kind of mid-February-ish, and then end of April is really when Uranus goes back into Gemini permanently. But really, like last few months of this year and a little bit of the start of next year, but not much. So, was it February 8th? I looked at the other day. But yeah, so the fact that all the outer planets are going, that Uranus is on its way back into Taurus, right? That it kind of perched its little head in there. We got a little glimpse of Uranus and Gemini, while Pluto is also in Aquarius, and while Saturn and Neptune are also in Aries. We got that glimpse and we felt it a little bit. But guys, outer planets, they're what sets the era. So it takes time to develop. You don't expect to just like know, okay, well, this is what it means based on a few months. No, hell no. We got a little taste. For me, after years of shit, it was absolutely magical. In the most, like in a way I could have never predicted, right? But I also had my Jupiter return. Not that anyone cares, but so to me that symbolism is really like new beginnings, and it's very, very, very in line with the whole point of the video, my Instagram video I made the other day, which was like, we are still like, it's not that we're not in where we were at the start of the year, where we're in this, and where we've been, where we were for a long time before that, where we were in this liminal space and without any idea of what's on the next page of the chapter. Now we fucking know, or we have an idea, we've experienced it. So now we're going back into tying up the final knots, related to this era for us as a collective, right? Like the world as a collective and as individuals. And that's what the end of this year will be. And this is what this eclipse is really introducing us to. It's really showing us 2 different, on an energetic, intuitive down, mixing my intuition with the chart. It's like, it's really gonna somehow, and this might not make sense, it's gonna really show us 2 different worlds, 2 different paths, like an exit, like I feel like 2 like cosmic highways almost, that are like diverging, right? And that might give us a really good idea of like, okay, this eclipse, I need to really let go of this way of thinking, this way of talking to myself, this way of talking to the world, this way of thinking, right? This pattern of self-criticism, this pattern of observation and of learning and of conversation and of closed-mindedness and of argumentative. I can't even fucking talk, guys. I'm learning. The better I get at Spanish, the worse I get at English. I'm not even joking. My English has gotten worse. I'm trying my best. Argumentativism. Yeah, I don't know. So basically, with with Saturn, the planet of karma, at the last degree of the zodiac on Scat, the fixed, pretty vicious fixed star. There's really a lot. It's called the anaretic degree. It's the last degree, 29 degrees, and this is the last, the 29 degrees Pisces, right? So it's the final karmic test, And because and it's also still part of that mini grand trine, because it is still conjunct, Neptune and sextile Pluto and Uranus. But it's really, so yeah, it really is like the you know, 1 foot in the old world, 1 foot in the new world. So yeah, a lot of this is just like how we can like plan, calculate, and it's like the best laid plans of mice and men, or whatever. Like we can have everything figured out. This happens, then we're gonna do this, then we're gonna do this, and then some shit happens and it just throws it all away. And that's surrender. It's that when you know that you can't control anything, good or bad, it's the most freeing thing in the fucking world. You know? And trust me, even me who talks about this for a living, I fall back into times where I am trying to control how something goes, right? No, I'm talking to my mom upstairs today. I'm staying with my mom still. I'm like, Mom, no, like this is how I want to do it. I'm not going to say what it's about, but it's like, this is how I want to do this thing. Like, just trust me. I just want to do it, get it over with. I don't want to go through this entire process. And just getting frustrated, but then also being like, you know what? Whatever, screw it. So yeah, so basically, like, Saturn, right? As I was saying, it's almost like a retest of what we've learned during Saturn and Pisces. And when you think about Saturn and Pisces, hold on. When you think about that like Saturn Pisces energy, like Saturn being, it can really be like what are our fears when it comes to the unseen? How are we afraid of letting ourselves go when it comes to control, right? And because it's a karmic crisis degree, the anoretic degree, there's urgency, right? There's the final test. It's like you have to master this lesson now. It's the last time, right? It's retrograding back into Pisces, and it's gonna come back. So I have to look at all the full moons and whatnot. I'm sure it will be at 29, in another full moon. Well, it might not. But a big thing with Pisces is like I said, surrender, faith, spirituality, imagination, like we talked about before, letting go. So Saturn Pisces is like, can you like create structure and get past, like, create structure in relation to your dreams? Can you get past your fears and kind of open your mind up to what's possible, even if it's something that you can't see? And then can you balance faith? It's just very similar to Virgo Pisces. Can you balance faith and responsibility? Like, and then avoid like Pisces escapism, but also Virgo rigidity. So you see, like, this is kind of how astrology speaks, at least how I look at it, is that there's a lot of times the chart will say similar things in different ways, right? Now Pisces is also about, can have a lack of boundaries, right? So sometimes, it's like, how can you hold healthy boundaries, with yourself and other people's spiritual boundaries, right? And yeah. So I guess, like, Saturn's maturity, Pisces is spirituality, so spiritual maturity, but then also like Pisces is about, complete ego disillusionment, right? Complete letting go. So like, has there been any kind of low vibe Pisces energy, like escapism, kind of playing victim, being in denial, and have you avoided accountability in any of those realms, right? Have you allowed yourself to trust, or have you lost trust? And like, what is your, has your relationship to faith and to surrender and to compassion, to spirit, to whatever, has that matured? It can be very, it can be very, very strong. It's just a lot of times people with those placements natally have the fear to even go in those areas in the first place. But, God pushes them there. So, if the answer is no to a lot of those questions, then there could be a big wake-up call. If it's, and a lot in big karmic endings, if it's yes, there could be almost like a rite of passage, something new, solidifying your work. So, it's really the completion of the cycle, and it is going to go back retrograde for a while. But, once again, we're standing between two worlds. Now, the big difference now is that we have the experience. So it's like now that that like probably 9 months ago or in the last year or so, I told you guys, it's like we're reading a book, and there's that page. I've said this so many times. There's that page between chapters, and it's like the book's like this, and we have the book. This is the book, and we finished this chapter, and we have this kind of page, so we can't see what's on the next chapter, but we also can't see what's on the last chapter. So we're really stuck in this no man's land. Well, really, we actually opened that next chapter. We got to read some of the next chapter. We got to experience that, but now we're kind of like back at this place, but with having had that experience. So it's a lot when you've jumped off a cliff into water. That's what I always use, or sky dove or bungee jumped or whatever. When you've done something like that might be a little bit scary one time, and then after you've done it once, it's pretty easy. Whatever examples, like the second, like it's a lot less scary, right? It's the same thing with transits. After the first hit, it tends to you understand the energy a little bit more, less of a lost feeling. Okay. So, but yeah, I definitely think for a lot of people, a lot of like kind of final karmic exams. So we'll just have to see what happens with that. Let's see. I think there's a lot of room for growth, optimism with Jupiter's effect here. Like being able to kind of it's like the cosmic teacher, like kind of, yes, things are shifting, but trust that this is for your own growth. Jupiter equals growth. So there could be new teachers or new teachings popping up during this time, but it could be really beneficial for you if you're able to really look at this, right? Mars square Jupiter. So you have to look at every aspect in something like this. So that could be some impatience, and overdoing things. It's I think in the context of this eclipse, it's more about not forcing anything, and kind of just going with the flow of Pisces as opposed to like anything impulsive, right? But it is Mars and Libra, so it's not like it's like a super strong Mars. And then Venus is kind of a wild card here because it's in Leo. It's unaspected, right? It's the only one that's on its own. So this could potentially mean that like relational themes are not like the big focus here in a way, like that, or that they just are kind of standing out separately from this eclipse narrative, and that they can kind of not obviously for a lot of people, because like those could be central to a lot of people, right? For example, if you have like a first or seventh house where this falls, or just in general, right? If a big part of like you moving towards Pisces is actually like, that's more Scorpio Taurus, but it is like the need to let go of someone, a partner or something like that, before you move into this next phase of the world, this next era, which I'm not telling people to do. I'm just saying that, like, that there is a potential for that. But um I could see like how like love and Venus energy like acting as a mirror for how we integrate all these other lessons, right? So yeah, this so overall I'd say like it's just like a big cosmic initiation. And I think a lot of people when I said like that we had this little break in the middle of the summer, a lot of people were like, I don't know, I still felt like fucking crazy, and I get it, and that's because outer planets do take longer. Um, and look, even like I made the video about August. I thought August 7th, all the astrology pointed to complete chaos, and it was, it was pretty fun and pretty normal. So sometimes, like, I'm not gonna act like I'm some perfect predictor, but when it comes to themes and to the main karmic energetic themes, I think I get it pretty well, right? Um, but I like this because this one is movement forward, right? And when we're micromanaging our life through Virgo control, it can get like or how much how much is our intellect and what we've been taught, our conditioning, like how much are we intellectualizing spirit in our conception of why we're here. And then when we have a better sense of why we're here, or just like a sense of not knowing why we're here, but like a curiosity, then that can just lead to a whole new adventure and a whole new purpose in life. You know, being open to the miracles, being open to prayer, being open to synchronicities. I believe that when we're open to these things, they find us. When we are looking, that's why some people see angel numbers or animal totems, right? Because it's not because they're crazy or schizophrenic or anything like that. It's because that's how our spirit guides and spirit in general communicate with us. It's but like if it's like a phone, and if they're trying to call you through your dreams, through this, through that, and that's how it works with transits too, is that you can heal the energy, or deal with it internally, but if not, then you're going to have some external thing that's going to come up. So you can actually deal with all your karma, not, essentially most of it, or like a large part of your karma, through the work you do internally. Of course, there's a lot of things that are fated that come up, but your reaction will be a healed reaction to it. Um, so yeah, how do you hold faith at the edge of the unknown? So okay, so then let's talk a little bit about. Let me give it one more stare. Okay. All right. So okay. So let's go house by house, right? What time am I at? 38:23. Hold on, guys. So okay, so let's go house by house really quick. So okay, so it's 15 Pisces / Virgo, right? So if you have if 15 Pisces is in your first house, right? It's about identity. So it's on the axis. So I see it more as like the identity versus relationships, right? And it's really about kind of surrendering to a more it's about boundaries in a way, but also to kind of not defining yourself through partnerships, and where that balance of control comes from in your personal life, and the projections of other people as well. So it's really about, on a personal level, being more compassionate, being more being more of a surrendered individual, and really thinking about how any of these dynamics, or even like someone who's critical of their of how they look, or their personality, of just who they are, or how much perfectionism do you have in relationships, right? Like what do you expect from yourself, and what do you expect from other people that's in line with this energy of where you need to surrender, and are you trying too hard to date? Are you trying too hard to find the perfect person? What's the criteria for that person? Stuff like that. So second house, eighth house axis, basically, obviously, I would say it's about worth, and learning that you're learning to really trust that your worth is more based on your spirit than something material. Obviously, like, an eclipse in the second eighth house axis could shake things up money wise, for good or bad. It could be, changes there. But definitely highlights money and security, and kind of self-esteem, and how we feel about ourselves, right? So I think there's also an element of, like, how am I leaning on myself? Am I leaning on myself or other people for things? Like, am I trusting myself? Am I trusting my gut? Right? How much do I need? Like in terms of on a spiritual and physical level, am I a hoarder of a sense? Like what do I need? What do I need, and what does my soul need, and what does my ego want? Right? So yeah, it could be like a big financial turning point. And then, yeah, there's also an intimate level to it also, right? But I think it's like being able to trust yourself, and trust your value, trust your determination, and to keep going through something. So third house, I'd say it's about how we see the world, and how we connect. Like, it's basically just everything I said, around our belief systems. Are we too rigid with our philosophies? Are we over analyzing, and when we're trying to come up with the truth, are we, like, is our logic getting in the way of us seeing the big picture? Are we thinking that we're know-it-alls, and just in that kind of echo chamber of confirmation bias, and only listening to people that have the same opinion, or from the same culture or whatever, same worldview as us? So it's really around surrendering, when it comes to taking in information, and communicating, right? So being more open, and less rigid with kind of like wanting to listen more, wanting to kind of like let go and surrender to the fact that you don't know shit. Like, the more you know, you know less. So this could really shift how you think. Even it could be great for writing, and just speaking, and just honestly getting, like, really really thinking about things differently, if that's needed, and having conversations with people that like, might, it could it could feel kind of risky, because it might, just not being afraid to have certain conversations with certain people who might think very differently than you, and being able to, not not react necessarily. You can take the information in, and then continue to do that in different situations, and not judge the person, and just really realize that every person is just going, they're just a human with their experience, and their experiences, and their kind of who they are, their mind, their conditioning, and there's nothing wrong with anyone. Or there's some people there are, but like, you see what I'm saying? Like, everyone has their own magic that they can give you. Like, everyone can teach you something. So fourth, 10th. So fourth house, if it lands in the fourth house, obviously, this is a big, big, especially if it's close to the IC. It's just really that can have like a big ancestral element, like very karmic, emotional, family energy to it. It could be a huge turning point with something related to your family, even potentially a crisis or a coming together. We don't really know. With Jupiter, this could be very good. It could be understanding the past at a deeper level than you did before, or it could be letting go of the past. It could be moving forward by being able to not have a certain anger or fear related to something that would happen in the past. And so the soul growth can come through also surrender, right? Pisces, on an emotional, spiritual level, right? Like our very base foundations and healing family patterns. So also in that, with the South Node being, in the 10th, and it's like kind of releasing perfectionism around who we think we have to be and how we have to appear, and with our work and with our career, and the overall life direction we're going, and kind of knowing that, like I said, the best laid plans of mice and men, whatever the fuck the quote is, excuse my language, but you know what I'm saying. It's very much like being able to let go of that need to appear a certain way, and maybe even overworking and control that public image so much, right? So yeah, like, what's the spiritual foundation that sustains you? Are you giving that enough attention? And how does that connect to what you're doing? Which isn't just career. So, okay, fifth house. It falls in your fifth house. Fifth house, 11th house axis. Obviously, fifth house is about creativity, fun, passion, children, a lot of stuff. Romance, sex. So the inner child within us. So I think a eclipse like this, with the Pisces part falling in the fifth, to me could be where you need to let yourself go, and stop being so over analytical about what people in your community, people around you, think of you, like, especially in group dynamics and following societal rules. And it's like, just learning, like really allowing yourself to just be a child, to play, to find the right types of passions, things that you really love to do. And whatever like lights your fire. So whatever, like, everyone has that a different type of creative spark, and it might be a class that you start taking. It might be a hobby that you start, right? Which sounds boring. It sounds boring when people say, start, do this, do that. But I mean it. Like, you can start small, right? But like, Leo fifth house is about passion. Like, I love football, not American football, football. I love some types of electronic music. I love astrology. I love traveling to different countries and just walking around and not doing any of the touristy stuff and just learning languages. And, where does that shit come? I love cats and all animals. I love them so much. Like, I'm passionate about them. I love learning Argentine Spanish. I love Argentine football. I love Romania. I love France. I love all like, but my point is like, I love playing sports video games and pretending like doing, no one's gonna know what I'm talking about, but doing the dynasty mode, and basically it's like I own the entire team, make every decision for many years, and that's very nerdy, I know, but I've done it since I was like a 6-year-old, and it's very Virgo, but like I love that, I haven't had video games in like 2 years, or I just got my thing back. But the point is like, besides the last one, like those passions, I love playing basketball, right? That's Leo, is like only by trying you know what you love. And when you're following what society tells you too much, or like what's like, oh, I'm not going to try this thing because they're going to look at me like this. So what's your joy? What's your play? What's the inner, like if you were a kid again, what would you be doing? Right? That's what Leo is. So Pisces is like letting go and surrendering into authentic self-expression. And that's going to help you understand yourself better. And then that's going to help you find a more accurate, or like a appropriate community, or you're going to be more in tune with your individuality, which is going to be better for you and your own social, wider social world, and connections, and people that you actually really want to be with, and communities that you really want to be a part, especially heading into this new world. Okay, sixth house. So this is a big one, obviously, duh. 6-12, because like sixth house is Virgo, 12th house is Pisces. So basically here, with the 15 Pisces landing in your sixth, you're really learning to approach everyday life, your routines, your work, your health, all of those little things that go into the day-to-day, with more flow, less worry, more surrender. You're adding more spirit into your day-to-day, right? So if I was doing this, by the way, I feel like this is the first time I've ever done this, by the way, like with the houses. I think a lot of astrologers will be like, this one would be for, let's think, it's 6th, 7th is it would be, hold on, I'm tripping. Well, 6th house Pisces would be, is it Libra rising? No, I'm way off. No, it would be, no, it would be Cancer, right? My brain is completely fired. Okay, so 7th is Aries. So Libra, so Virgo. I can't even fucking think right now. I don't know. I'm going crazy. But yeah. So anyways, forget where my brain just went. But I feel like a lot of astrologers will break this into the whole signs. And I couldn't even just think of like if your 6th house has, the thing is like houses don't start the same place, and it's 15 degrees. It's right in the middle. So it's like, it doesn't really work that way, because you could have a 2-degree, your 6th house could start at 3 degrees Pisces, or at 24 degrees Pisces, So I don't really want to say, if your 6th house is Pisces. You see what I'm saying? Or if you're if it falls in your 6th house, right? So hold on. Yeah. But I think yeah. So anyway, so basically just, yeah, being able to surrender when it comes to that, add more spirituality to your life, at like whether it's meditating, going on nature walks, um, you know, prayer, just like to your routine, to your day to day. Like it's this is like, obviously like a very like kind of like not much needs to be said about this one because it's so in line with the actual eclipse. And it's just like also like, yeah, like about like releasing the escapism and all like the low vibe. It's just very, there's not much that needs to be said that's different than the overall energy of the eclipse with this one. The perfectionism around like Virgo, but also like escapism and kind of the unconscious self-sabotage, that can come from needing to control everything or feeling like you're not good enough, right? So if it falls in your sixth, like there could be health, physical or mental health revelations that come up, right? There could be something with your work that changes. And then also, 6th and 12th is about service, spiritual practice, right? So there could be something there too. Okay, 7th house. So if this is your 7th house, following your 7th house, it's the same polarity as the first one I gave, right? But reversed emphasis. So basically like Pisces, falling in the 7th, it's really about surrender in relationships and kind of how are the boundaries blurred, and is there a sort of spiritual perfectionism that I have when it comes to partnership of like this ideal that is impossible to come for it to, like almost like a self-sabotage by like I talked about this recently. Like I put this, I had a video on my Instagram about like the difference between Virgo and Pisces perfectionism, right? And how Pisces Neptune perfectionism is like, I create something that is out of the ordinary, like an ideal, and if something doesn't get to that ideal, which is impossible for anything to get to it, then I just say screw it. And in the romantic context, it's like that partner that's just absolutely perfect, like the whole, like fairy tale thing. And then when the real humanity is shown, but then it's also kind of like a defense mechanism around not wanting to actually be vulnerable and be potentially hurt, right, beneath the surface. So I think more spiritual energy and compassionate energy in your partnerships, not just your romantic ones, your best friend ones too. And then, also the over kind of releasing the need to be like the obsession with a certain self-image and how you're seen, or just like kind of like even like a hyper self, self-analysis, right? And just like being too rigid and critical of yourself. So and just having too much of a like identification with kind of the external self. But it is once again the balance between, independence and relationship, and how sometimes, like what do you need to do to grow, right? What's intuitively Pisces, like what do you feel like you need most in life, right? So whether you're in a relationship, like what needs to happen, right? From a balanced perspective of not being too, of like the action, the day-to-day needs, and then also like the dream element. Like how does this person, if you're with someone, do you believe that everything is possible when you're around them, or do they limit you? But also, how is your communication? How are the little day-to-day things, right? Like, are they reliable? So lots of stuff like that. Okay. 8th house, second. So a lot of these, like, I don't even know, like I've already kind of like, it's just kind of reversed what I already said. So this is where I have mine. Well, actually, it's not. What am I talking about? Because I have mine's in the 7th. So whatever. But yeah. So this is just basically like surrendering spiritually, and especially when it comes to like intimacy and being able to trust others, being able to trust yourself, being able to kind of fall into your fears of vulnerability and intimacy and sharing, right? And just anything related to your psyche and into the work, to your fears, to your greatest fears, and to what's unseen, right? The unseen parts, unkept parts of your soul. This is about your soul. This is about letting go on a soul level and being able to be in line with who you truly are, and maybe even say the thing that you've been holding in for some time. And it's about power. It's about spiritual power, right? I said this before, and how your power is really intrinsic to you on a spiritual identity level, not what you own, or kind of what level of wealth or material security you have, right? So when your self-worth is too based on that, that's something that needs to be let go of with this eclipse. And that, once again, it could trigger turning points around eighth house things like intimacy, shared finances, right? Inheritances for people. I've seen that like a good amount of time with eclipses, actually. Or yeah, just something that like, it could even be a crisis that brings someone to experience some type of psychological reality and healing that they need, experience they need. So ninth house third, like I said, this is really just about the need to release mental clutter, and kind of like over analyzing, nitpicking at like nitpicking at like someone gives you like a really amazing perspective of something, and instead of looking at the whole of what they said and the meaning, you're like, oh, but you used this word wrong, or like that kind of shit, like why did you spell this word wrong, or like why, like it's like when you like someone could make the most amazing write the most amazing film or make the most amazing video, and instead of like critiquing or take the most beautiful photo, and instead of critiquing the actual thing that you took the photo of, like you took the most beautiful picture of I don't know, let's say I did it, let's say I was in Zimbabwe, and I somehow had this crazy story where I met this guy who followed me for a while, and he took me into this village, and like saw this entire, had this crazy experience, with this tribe, and they brought me in, and I got to see how they lived, and I just caught this like perfect, beautiful image of like a father and a daughter in this very traditional way, and like someone's like, instead of like seeing like this is such a beautiful picture, they're saying, and that's very Pisces Virgo too. They're like, oh well, the ratio of your blah 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 like wasn't perfect, you the lighting. It's like, shut the fuck up, like go take a picture of a bridge and tell me it's better because because like the little technicalities that I could learn in a month, easily, which I will, matters more. That's kind of an example. Sorry if I just got, if my fiery Sag moon sign just came out there, but that does piss me off. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I do take good pictures, but it's not for ego. It's like I get this thing in my head. Here I go with a little. I'll keep it quick. I get like a clicking sound whenever I take a photo. Like, I could take like 50 photos in a row of the same thing, and I'll get a click right here. It's in my left brain, a click. And the second I hear that click, I don't know if that's a normal thing. Maybe other people have it. And I see like a flash. I know I took the perfect photo. I can feel it, and it's always spot on. But yeah, photography, I have some ideas of what I want to do with that, and integrating a lot of other things, interests of mine, which is, back to Leo, 5th house, like passions, interests, starting the thing.